How y'all folks is today? It's old R.Willis coming at you again. Down here in good old Philadelphia, Mississippi. The city of southerly love. Woo-wee, boy, it's been a heck of a couple of days, I'll tell you what. We had a little old puppy and it got ran over. You seen it in the videos running up. I love that little old thing. Somebody ran it over, so I was upset about that. I've had a lot of bad luck with dogs on this road. We live right close to a road. It's just an old county road, but man, it gets sort of busy and the vehicles just fly up and down it, man. And when I was a kid, most of the dogs I had would wind up eventually getting run over in this darn road. And I just quit getting them for a while. I wouldn't even get a dog on account of it. I mean, I ain't got the money to put no fence up. I'd like to put a fence up, but I'd have to put it around the whole property. And I can't afford that, man. I ain't got, since I started sitting with Mom, that's what I do, by the way, folks. I'm a full-time caregiver for my mom. You've seen her on the cooking videos, eating and stuff. And she gets around good for the most part, but there's just a whole lot of stuff that she just ain't able to do no more. And I moved back to Mississippi in 2020, right before Corona started hitting. I got down here. I was living in Nashville, and I worked as a professional musician and did handyman work on the side. And I just figured I'd live up there the rest of my life, and got settled. I'd been living there about a decade, and everything just got flipped upside down, man. That year of 2020, Mom had this massive heart attack, wound up having to get an aortic valve replacement. And I moved down here. Dad was in bad shape. I didn't realize he was in as bad a shape he was. And after I got down here, his decline was rapid. And I wound up, I'm grateful that I got to spend his last days with him. And I was right there with him when he died. And he died a peaceful death in his own home. And I was able to make sure that happened. I'm grateful for that. But, it was depressing. It's been some kind of experience, moving back home to Philadelphia, Mississippi. I thought I'd never move back here. Well, I was real upset about it at first. When I first moved back down here, I didn't really like it at all. I was miserable. And I found peace, made peace with it now. But it's been a journey. I'll tell you what, there's been a lot of ups and downs. But Mom's doing a lot better. Man, she was almost dead, and I watched her almost die a couple of times during that whole ordeal, and it was right in the middle of Corona. I about lost my mind with all that Corona stuff, and, afraid to go to the store, but I have to get groceries, but afraid I was going to catch it and give it to Mom and then her die, and then I'd feel like it was my fault. So I was super duper careful, man. I was afraid to even touch the mail and touch anything. It about drove me crazy. And I'm somewhat of a germphobe to begin with. I'd started apprenticing to be a tattoo artist in Nashville at one point. And when I started I took this course on bloodborne pathogens and disease control. And whenever I took that, I became aware of how long a lot of bloodborne diseases can live outside the body on hard surfaces, in dried blood. And man, I started becoming real paranoid, more than I ever had been. And I was somewhat paranoid to begin with. And then after I learned that stuff, well, then Corona come around, and I became even more paranoid. And it was getting to the point, and I had been diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder before. The extent that I have it, I don't know. I don't know how bad it is, because I've never been another human being. But I can leave the house. I don't have to sit there and count the number of times I shut the door. I don't get caught in that bad of a loop. But some things sometimes about drive me crazy. And it's more about like disease and stuff like that. I get real paranoid about that. And Corona, man, it really seemed like it intensified that a whole lot. But anyhow, I digress as usual. I got back down here. You know, we made it through all that. My dad wound up passing away, and I'm a recovering alcoholic. I had been sober in Nashville. I had been, amazingly enough, I moved from Philadelphia, Mississippi, which was a dry county, which that don't mean nothing. That just basically made more people make liquor and bootleg liquor around here. This place was known for moonshine and bootlegging. Pretty much, that's what went on in Philadelphia, Mississippi. And you can ask anybody from around here, right up the road, down the street, where I live, they call it Four Corners. That's where 4 different counties diverge there. And, that's where that was a hot spot for bootleg liquor, moonshine making. And I reckon I never knew for sure, but my dad, he used to make liquor back in the old days. And he showed me how to do it when I was a kid. But he never said this outright, but I kind of always figured they did it down there because if the law got after them, they could just run over in the next county. Now, nobody ever told me that, but I kind of figured that would kind of, while they done it, they'd run over there, I guess, and then they'd be out of jurisdiction for whichever one. But most of it was all organized with the law. That's what Dad told me. He was here. He worked on the law force in the 60s, I think. And he worked on it for a little while, and he said it was totally corrupt back then. And he didn't want to be no part of it. It was during the civil rights movement. There was a lot of really bad stuff going on. And he got out of it on account of it. And, you know, it's like that movie, Mississippi Burning, that, I don't know if y'all seen it, but it was a real popular movie. I think it won like a Grammy or something. But, you know, it's based on the story of this town and what happened in the late 60s. And what basically happened was some civil rights work. Mississippi was still trying to hang on to all that old Jim Crow junk. And civil rights workers come down here to make a speech. Well, they killed them when they come through here and buried them in a pond levee. And Dad was around back then, but he had already gotten off the law force, thankfully enough, because that's basically who done it. The Neshoba County law force and Meridian, Mississippi law force was involved in it. It was a very corrupt system. I know a lot of the old timers that were involved in it. Most of them, I guess about all of them's dead now, but it is what it is, you know. That's the way it happened back then around here. You know, some of the people that I'm friends with now's direct relatives were involved in all that, and I'm grateful Dad didn't get involved in it. And, you know, I don't look down on none of my friends for what none of their folks did. It just is what it is, you know. But it was bad news, man. You know, I just don't believe in killing folks and treating people different on account of their race or nothing like that. I'm not a racist person. I went to public school, and some of my first friends that I had in school was African American, you know, and that's something I remember right off. And I mean, you can ask them, am I racist? You know, you can ask somebody like Sammy Ricks or Will Triplett or somebody like that I grew up around my whole life, you know. But anyhow, moving back down here, I got depressed. I felt like Mississippi has like number 1 or number 2 worst economy in the United States. And I felt like, you know, it's probably kind of hopeless. It's got a real depressing vibe around here. As far as like being successful at anything. You always feel like, you know, all you can really do is go work for somebody else and just get by. Unless you want to be like a brick mason or a contractor. And I mean, you know, that never did appeal to me. I've been a laborer in that field for people and never, it just seems like a dull way to go. I mean, hey, more power to them, and thank God for them. We got to have them, you know, but it just wasn't for me. So anyway, I got back down here. My dad wound up passing away, and like I said, and I become full-time caregiver for Mom. So I'm down here in Mississippi. I picked back up drinking. I started feeling depressed about all that. Corona was going on. And folks, the way I got sober, and I'm not soliciting by no means, because I don't believe in that, but it was through a 12-step program. And I don't mind blowing my anonymity, but I'm not trying to advertise for that program. It's Alcoholics Anonymous. And it worked for me, you know. And I used to go to AA meetings in Nashville. And the whole time I was there, I stayed sober. 9 years. Well, I moved back down home and got all this corona going on and everything. I quit going to AA meetings. And the next thing you know, I started back drinking. Well, it was just a spiral, as usual. I mean, some people can handle alcohol, and they can continue to live a functioning life and drink occasionally, and they don't care when they drink again. You know, they go, this weekend they may go to a crawfish boil and drink 6 beers or something. And then they don't even care. The next day they might wake up with a slight hangover and not drink again for 6 months, you know. And I never was like that. From the first time I ever picked up a drink of alcohol, I remember when I was a kid, I went over to my old buddy Nick Mason over there. And he won't mind me telling this story. We went over there. I spent the night with him, and he said he found a bottle of booze out in the camper. His dad had stashed away a bottle of Old Charter in the camper, and it was almost completely full. It looked like it had maybe 1 shot or 2 taken out of the bottle. Well, you know, we took a drink of that. Nick done it first. He cracked the lid on it, and took a swig of it, and I remember he went something like this. Oh, man, that's some smooth stuff. Looked like he was going to puke. And so, you know, but he couldn't let on. He tried to pretend like it tastes good. So then I passed it over to me. And, of course, I did the same thing. It tastes like crap, man. It tastes like fire. That was the first time I ever drank liquor. And I took a swig of it. And, oh, it was burning me up. But I didn't let on, you know. I had to pretend like it was good. But we kept on drinking it, man. And after we got down in it about 5 or 6 good guzzles, we started feeling the effects of it. And I loved it. I loved that stuff right from that first drink. I didn't love the taste, but I loved the effect. And I didn't know then that it was an allergy, that, as they refer to it in AA. I'm allergic to alcohol. I get this thing called a phenomenon of craving. Whenever I drink one drink, I want another. And when I drink another, I want another. And it just don't end until I get blackout drunk or, you know, sick or fall asleep or something like that. Now, the older I got to where thought I could somewhat manage that, you know, and I would cut it off and I would take a nap or whatever. But it was just the constant desire for alcohol. Yeah, I could manage it enough to function, but barely function. And I was drinking every day. You know, like I said, when I started back, I was only going to drink in the evenings. Well, I found myself taking a little drink throughout the day, you know, and stuff like that. I still got to take Mom to certain things, so I wouldn't drink on those days, but then I'd feel like crap. My body had become physically addicted to alcohol. And by the time I couldn't wait to get home so I could have a drink. And every time I start doing that, eventually I get out of control. And that's what happened this last time. Like I said, I'd been sober 9 years and didn't have no problems. I mean, I had normal everyday problems, but not the kind of problems that alcohol causes, with the law particularly. And that's what happened down here. I got drinking too much and getting drunk, going into a blackout, not even remembering what I was doing. And that was happening on multiple nights. At nighttime, I wouldn't remember what had happened from like 6 o'clock till whenever I fell asleep. I just vaguely remember. And so anyhow, me and my girlfriend, you've seen her on the videos, Nikki, we getting into these big arguments, yelling and hollering. Well, long story short, we was doing that, and the law got called, and they come out here. So I got in trouble, and I've got this pending charge now that I have to go to court to get resolved. And it's dragging out. I've been to one court date, and it's been postponed. But it's all alcohol related, folks. So I learned my lesson. I cannot safely drink alcohol. I am an alcoholic. When I drink, I want to drink all the time. And I eventually lose control of what I do when I drink and don't even remember doing it. It's like Jekyll and Hyde. I go into an altered state of consciousness, and it can cause a lot of trouble being like that because I make rash decisions, become very emotional, paranoid, start thinking everybody's out to get me, just all kind of stuff. It just puts me in a bad way, and I'm better off sober so I can function properly because I got a big responsibility looking after mom, looking after everything around here. I can't afford to be drinking. So, like I said, I got in trouble with the law on account of being drunk in a blackout. And now I'm still trying to get all that taken care of. I already spent a lot of money on a lawyer, and we'll see what happens. But I have absolutely quit drinking alcohol. I've been sober now for about 4 months. I believe right at exactly 4 months. And I'd been sober 9 years before, so I know that the disease, as we call it, that phenomenon of craving will always lurk in the back of my consciousness, and I have to be aware of it, and I have to keep it in check. And I go to AA meetings. That's what works for me, talking to other people that have had similar problems. And if somebody else is trying to recover, trying to get off of the booze or drugs, both the same. Addiction's addiction, it does basically exactly the same thing. I mean, it may have slight different way you act or way you feel, but it all results in just basically taking all your desires for anything positive and just focusing it on chasing that high, that buzz, and it becomes your only true love, you become obsessed with it. And if you have that kind of problem, I can relate to that. And that's what it makes it good about Alcoholics Anonymous or any of the 12-step programs, is it gives you opportunity to relate to other people who are having the same sort of issues. And by working together, it helps you to stay sober and stay away from it. And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that the program exists. It gives you the opportunity to find the God of your understanding, or a higher power, as we call it. And it doesn't tell you have to do that any certain way. You don't have to become a Christian, or you don't have to become a certain denomination. It doesn't specify. It leaves it up to you to figure out what God means to you, or a higher power, a God of your understanding. Some people have a hard time with that concept and can only use something such as good orderly direction for God. Rather, maybe it's an atheist person or whatnot. But AA is not. And again, I'm not trying to advertise or advocate for that, because that's another thing it don't do. It does not solicit, So I'm just talking about my experience and how it's helped me a lot. And anyway, I like that part, that it's open to everybody. You don't have to be a certain religion or creed or anything, and you can work the same program your own way, and everybody works it slightly different. But anyway, it was just chit-chatting this morning as usual. Looks like I've been doing it for about 20 minutes, so I don't want to make too long of a video. It can't nobody stand to sit through. So I'm going to get on off of him. We'll talk about some other stuff another time. I appreciate y'all watching my video. If you get a chance, subscribe to my channel. I'm trying to grow it now. I'm just now getting started with this whole YouTube channel thing, so it's a lot to learn. Believe me, a lot more to it than just making a video and putting it up there. You got to know how to tag stuff right and where to put it in the description and where to do this and do that and do the blah, blah. I was doing everything wrong, so I'm having to edit a lot of stuff as usual, but it's a learning process. So you can subscribe to my channel and you can be along for the ride and see how it turns out. If I can hang in there, if I wind up dropping out, like I've done a lot of things. Anyway, folks, old R.Willis down here. Appreciate y'all watching. See you next time.